So today is the third homily in a four-part series on pro-life, specifically in vitro fertilization. The first homily was about the pain of not being able to have children and about Jesus' compassion for us. He suffers with us, he loves us, and he wants us to respond the way he would. The second homily was about how IVF treats children like objects. It decides which ones are considered good, then which ones will be frozen, which ones will be experimented on. And because it involves the death of millions of embryonic persons, we can see that IVF is very parent-centered. We create children for the desires of the parents. Of course, the desire to love children is good, but we have to choose the right means to get there, which we'll talk about later. I'm dividing the homily into two parts. The first part is about the commodification of humans, and the second will be about healing. Now, by the word commodification, I mean that people end up being treated like objects that can be bought and sold. One person conceived through IVF wrote, "I have an abusive single mother who bought me to fill her loneliness, with her conditional love being contingent on meeting her needs. I have a donor father who openly admits he helped bring me into this world so he could profit off of my existence and play out his Genghis Khan-like fantasy. I can be grateful to be alive all I want. It does not take away that people bought and sold me for their self-serving desires." There's a growing number of people conceived through IVF who struggle with their identity and their roots. One person wrote, "Absolutely no relatives that I have found have wanted a relationship with me. My biological father wouldn't even provide me with medical history. My grandma agreed to meet me, but then she ghosted me, and my siblings haven't really wanted to talk. I've gone through many difficult things in my life, but nothing can prepare you for rejection from your father." Of course, a lot of children who are conceived through IVF, they are loved, and that's really wonderful. But the point is, IVF has opened up a door to commodifying children in a way that just doesn't exist through natural marital procreation. So think about it this way. Does IVF allow any of us here, anyone, to create a child just for ourselves? Yes. Does IVF allow any of us to create a child so that we can give that child to someone else? Yes. And so the point is, IVF has no limits on how it treats children, because children really are objects that you can use to fulfill other people's desires. But in the church's teaching, children should always be procreated within marriage, because that's the best environment for the children. The first reading is about human suffering. It says, "Job spoke to his friends. Does not the human being have a hard service on earth? Like a slave who longs for the shadow, so I am allotted months of emptiness, and nights of misery are a portion to me. When I lie down, I say, when shall I rise? But the night is long, and I am full of tossing until dawn." The book of Job is a poetic drama that explores the theological question, why do innocent people suffer? So Job is the righteous man. He gets very sick. His whole family is killed. He loses all of his possessions. We've spent a good amount of time empathizing with the parents who cannot conceive children on their own, and that's good. Now we want to spend time empathizing with children, babies, embryonic persons who are killed, and then we want to empathize with people who have suffered because of IVF. Like Job, people who are conceived through IVF are righteous, they're innocent, I should say, but there is an injustice done against them. There's a documentary called Big Fertility, and in it, there's an American woman who agrees to gestate twins for a couple from Spain, and this Spanish couple wants a boy and a girl. But when the implanted girl dies, and then the male embryo splits into identical twins, the couple is horrified, because that's not what they paid for. And you can see that the IVF mentality industry has made children and procreation into a business. The Phoenix Sperm Bank writes this on their website. With the COVID-19 pandemic still affecting so much of our lives, you may be looking for opportunities to earn extra money in 2022. If so, becoming a sperm donor is a great way to consistently make up to $1,500 per month while making a positive difference in the lives of others. If you are selected as one of our donors, you'll get $100 cash for each approved donation you offer. And about 90% of all donations are approved, and you can donate up to 3 times a week. I know the parish is looking for creative ways to raise money for our parish center, but I hope we don't go that route. Don't do it. Don't do it. But it raises the question, did anyone ever consider the long-term ramifications of this whole thing? And the answer is no. Here's a screenshot of surrogacynetwork.org, which lists different levels of compensation women can get to be a surrogate mother in California, from $28,000 to $58,000. But since the free market is good, you could always ask a poor woman in India to carry your child at a rate of $8,000. Maggie Eastman began donating her eggs when she was in college. She did so for 10 years. When she was 32, she was diagnosed with stage 4 invasive ductal carcinoma, breast cancer, despite no one in her family having a history of cancer. She said, "Being an egg donor gave me terminal cancer," referring to all the hormones she took to harvest her eggs. And finally, the Center for Bioethics and Culture Network had a number of doctors sign a statement which said, "The medical process of surrogacy entails risks for the surrogate mother: ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, ovarian torsion, ovarian cysts, chronic pelvic pain, premature menopause, loss of fertility, reproductive cancers, blood clots, kidney disease, stroke, and in some cases, death. Women who become pregnant with eggs from another woman are at a higher risk for preeclampsia and high blood pressure." Okay, so that's the first part. Let's move on to the second part, which is about Jesus healing. As soon as Jesus and his disciples left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told Jesus about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. That evening at sunset, they brought to Jesus all who were sick or possessed with demons. And the whole city was gathered around the door, and he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. We see here that Jesus is curing the body of so many people, but this is not the primary reason why Jesus came. Would you agree? In the morning, while it was still very dark, Jesus got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." Why are they searching for him? They want a physical healing. And Jesus basically, in effect, is saying, "I'm not going to give it. That's not the main reason I came." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring towns so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do." So he's saying, I know you all want a physical healing. That's good. I've got a better healing in mind. The main reason Jesus came is to heal our relationship with God the Father. Because let's say you have a healed body. If you don't have a healed relationship with God the Father, you have no eternal life. So sometimes Jesus will heal the body, thanks be to God, but he's always focused on the soul. And then sometimes the sickness of the body actually leads to the healing of the soul. This is Blessed Lojza Grozde from Slovenia. He was abandoned by his parents. His father was never present. His mother married another man, and they didn't want him as a son. It was only when he was 13 that he encountered God, and he found in Mary the mother he never had. And so you can see that his longing to have parents that actually made him seek God. So the pain he had actually brought about a spiritual healing. Saint Margarita of Castello was born blind with multiple curvatures of the back and had dwarfism. Her parents were ashamed of her disabilities and they prayed for a miracle. But what would be the greater miracle? That she would be cured of her physical problems, or that the parents are cured of their lack of love? What's the greater miracle? Her physical healing or their healing of their lack of love? They kept her in seclusion because they were embarrassed about the way she looked. But Saint Margarita went to Mass every day and she became a saint. And one of her greatest feats is that she forgave her parents. Saint Martin de Porres, his Spanish father would not accept him because of his black skin, which came from the mother. Saint Martin grew up without the father and in poverty, but he worked hard and he applied himself to becoming a barber surgeon, and he joined the Dominicans. He was famous for levitation, for bilocation, and instantaneous cures. But his greatest miracle was his love of God and love of neighbor. In spite of all he suffered, he had no bitterness, no resentment, just prayer, humility, and service. And so no matter our background, nothing can stop us from being healed by Jesus' grace. Jesus came to heal us. And one of the healings we all need is our healing from idolatry. And so idolatry refers to when you worship something who is not God. Sometimes we worship money, or we worship success or pleasure. We sometimes even worship other people. We might even worship wanting to have children. A woman named Bethany, who was married for 21 years, never able to conceive children, she said, "I don't think my story is that interesting. We wanted children, but weren't desperate to get pregnant. Very early on, we felt the Lord call out the idol of having children. If our life only had meaning or was fulfilling if we had them, then we didn't trust the Lord for the life He would give us." Does that make sense? Sounds harsh, but we didn't feel the grief when we dealt with our idol. We realized that there was something inherently wrong with saying, "Having children is so important that I will go to any length to have them." I realized I believed in a lie, that my life will only be fulfilled if I have children. I'm believing a lie, that my life is significant if I'm a mother. I really want children. I want to give children to my husband. But if I can, I don't want it to ruin the rest of my life. I will not blame you, God, and I will not be disappointed in you. So letting go of our idols, it doesn't mean you crush your good desires. So here's a good alternative. Go to fertilitycarevancouver.ca. They use the Crichton model fertility care system, which is respectful of the human body and human sexuality. And it says there, among couples of normal fertility, conception occurs 76% of the time in the first cycle of using a defined day of fertility. It is 98% effective by the 6th cycle. If fertility-focused intercourse does not result in pregnancy being achieved within 6 months, we can refer to NAPRO technology. NAPRO refers to natural procreation technology. So this is an option. If you know anyone who's struggling with conception, refer them to fertilitycarevancouver.ca. We're also inviting everyone to do 40 Days for Life again today, just like we did last week. So this is our opportunity to witness to life, to pray for people, to pray for the protection of the unborn, pray for women and families who are thinking about abortion, that they don't do it, and pray for anyone who has had an abortion, that they can experience God's mercy. So you've got the cards in your pews. Could you just pull those out, please? Could you pass them out to everyone next to you, please? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can see there on the sign-up cards, we're taking, again, 2 weekends, Thursday to Sunday, Thursday to Sunday. If you sign it out, God bless you. We already have 108 of us signed up, so thank you for that. Really appreciate those of you who are taking multiple shifts. If you fill it out, please give it to the hospitality team. That'd be great. Finally, in preparation for next week's homily, we're going to show one graphic video of abortion. We're also going to show a few graphic images of babies who have died through abortion. And I've warned you about this for the past few weeks. I'm just giving you another notification, especially if you don't want to see it and you don't want your children to see it. So next week, I'll give you a warning again. You will not be caught off guard. Either close your eyes, look down, or have your children look down, or you're allowed to go to another parish next weekend. You have my permission. Okay. Anyway, that's just a reminder. And we're going to finish now with a 3-minute video about life in the womb. It's really quite beautiful. It's been accredited by 6 doctors. Just keep in mind as you watch it, life is so beautiful in the womb. But in Canada, any baby like you're about to see can be aborted at any time during pregnancy, from conception all the way to 9 months, because in Canada, there are no abortion restrictions. It's free game, which is terrible. So let's ask Jesus to heal us and our culture.
This is Olivia. Though she has yet to greet the outside world, she has already completed an amazing journey. This is the moment that life begins. A new human being has come into existence. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined. She begins to implant in the uterus about 1 week after fertilization. Her cells organize into what we call an embryo. At 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected. The buds of her arms and legs appear by 4 weeks. She begins to move between 5 and 6 weeks with both spontaneous and reflexive movements. At 6 weeks from fertilization, her brain activity can be recorded and bone formation begins. She can bring her hands together at 7.5 weeks, and separate fingers and toes emerge. She can also begin to hiccup. At the beginning of the 9th week, Olivia will have grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells, and she is now called a fetus. She will suck her thumb and swallow, grasp an object, touch her face, sigh and stretch. At 11 weeks, she is playing in the womb, moving her body and exploring her environment. Her taste bud cells have matured by week 12 but are still scattered throughout her mouth. Her mother will first sense Olivia's movements between 14 and 18 weeks, an event called quickening. Beginning at 18 weeks, ultrasounds show speaking movements in her voice box. Around 20 weeks, with a lot of help, babies have survived outside the womb. At 27 weeks, her eyes are responding to light. She can recognize her parents' voices and will even recognize lullabies and stories. Olivia has gone on an amazing journey during these last 9 months. She will soon signal to her mother that it is time for delivery and greet the outside world.